Okay, so yesterday we left off with recognizing how to create a binomial squared. So when we are doing this, remember you take that middle term, divide by 2, which gives you a 5. And if I square that 5, don't I get a 25? So this is a 20. So that means this is not a perfect trinomial square, which means that I cannot write it as a binomial square. If I look at this one and I divide by 2, I get a 9. And I square it, I get 81, which is what I have here. So in parentheses, I have my x, whatever sign, that's going to be a plus, and then whatever you get when you divide it by 2, that's what goes in parentheses. Divide by 2, so I get a 1, and 1 squared is 1. So these match, so I can have x minus 1. On the last one, divide by 2, I get a 2. If I square it, I get a 4. This doesn't work. Okay, not a perfect trinomial square. We're going to be using these to help us write the equation of a circle. Okay, so let's turn the page. And again, we're going to be skipping around a little bit. So this is what we primarily dealt with yesterday. So go ahead and from this, pull out the center and the radius. So do that real quick. Center and the radius. Okay, so class, what is the center? Good, 2, -7. So remember, it is the opposite of what you see in the parentheses. Think before you speak. What is the radius? 10. Isn't this piece r squared? Okay, so r squared, my r is going to be the 10. And if you actually did this and got 100, you could say r squared equals 100. And then you're right back to doing the square root and still getting the 10. Okay? This is called a standard form of a circle. Sometimes you'll end up with something that looks like this. So from here, and I'm going to probably do more of the work down here, from here, we need to put it in standard form. Okay, so our goal is to get something squared plus something squared equals our something squared. Okay, that's our goal. So I'm going to go ahead, and so I have plenty of room, I'm going to write this down here. We are going to break it down. Yep. So, typically, this number and this number are not there. You would have to find it. Okay, and we will do some of those yet today as well. I am telling you that this can be written as a binomial squared. And I'm telling you that this can also be written as a binomial squared. So if we look at what we just did, how do we determine what goes in here? Good. Then what number goes here? The 3. Yep, so after you divide, well, I'm going to have you hold off on doing the square root of 9 because later on in another example, you won't have the 9 there. You got to figure out what that value is going to be, okay? So think about when you take that middle term and you divide by 2, what do you get? There's your 3, okay? So then over here, I have a y. There's my minus. And what's this going to be? 5. So from here, you should be able to pull out the center and the radius. So what is the center? -3, 5. And somebody else, what is the radius? Which is 8. Okay, so this is what I'd want to see. I would not want to see square root of 64 because you can go one more step. Okay, so again, this is called a general form. It's not very helpful. It's not very user-friendly. We cannot easily pull out the center out of this one, or the radius for that matter. Okay, so it's not as easy to pull that out. So that's why you need to know how to convert it into standard form so you can pull out the center and the radius. Okay, I'll give you about 20 seconds or so to kind of wrap this up before I go to another example. Okay, you guys can already do that one. I want to move to let's go all the way over to this piece. Okay, so here's an equation. This is clearly not written in standard form. This is in a general form. And right now, this is not really helpful. Okay, so we are going to make it so it is more helpful. So here's what I like to do, is we are going to take anything with the x's and put them together. And I know that this needs to be a binomial squared. So I know I'm going to have to do something here. I'm going to have to add some number to that. So I'm going to put a blank there. I'm then going to take my y's and put them together. And again, I know I'm going to have to add some other number to it. And this is going to equal, I have a -4 left over. I want to take that to the other side of the equation. So how am I going to move this -4 over here? So I'm going to add 4. Okay. So what would this number have to be to make this a binomial squared? 1. So if I take this -2 and divide by 1, I get a, divide by 2. Sorry, divide by 2, I get a 1. And then what? What do I have to do next? to get this? Square it. Yep. So 1 squared is 1. So what is going to be here in parentheses? Good, x minus 1. And that 1 comes from what happens when I divide. It does not come from this. Okay? Plus, what's going to be a number that I'm going to add here? Somebody else that has not spoken yet. Take that 4 and do what with it? What? What's a 2? So you're saying this should be a 2? Let's check. So if I take a 4, what do I do with this 4? Divide by 2, and what do I get? 2, and then what do I do with it? Square it. Gotta square it. So I'm actually adding a 4. So what do I have left in parentheses? Y plus 2. Okay, equals. I already have a 4 here. I can't just add 5 to one side. So I have to add 5 to the other side as well. So I got that from my 1 and my 4. So if I clean this up, I have the quantity of x minus 1 squared plus the quantity of y plus 2 squared equals 9. The most common error is people do everything correct on the left and forget to add these two values on the right. So from here, you should easily be able to pull out the center and the radius. So talk with your group. I'm going to randomly call, so make sure you're having some discussion with your group. Okay, raising your hand who thinks they have the center. Okay, Thomas Beck, what did you get for the center? Careful. One negative 2. And then somebody else, the radius. Anybody? 3. Okay? Questions there. Okay, so we're going to do one more of those, and then you're going to have the rest of the time to be working. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next piece, which has some examples on there. So following what we did, first thing we did was we put all of our x's together. So I'm going to add something to it. Plus, I'm going to put my y's together. And then this 17 needs to go to the other side. So what's that going to be? So it's negative 17, correct? Okay, so magic number here. If I divide this by 2, I get a 7. If I square it, I get a 49. If I look over here, divide that by 2, I get a 2. And I square it, and I get a 4. So in the next step, I have my x. Whatever you got after you divided by 2, that's what goes in parentheses, so a plus 7. Don't forget that that is squared. Plus y minus, because that's the minus, whatever you get when you divide it by 2, and I got a 2, squared equals, then you have the negative 17. I added 53 on the left side, so I have to add 53 on the right side. Squeeze this in, so x plus 7 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals whatever 53 minus 17 is. Thank you. And then we look at the directions, and it says we need to figure out the center and the radius. So the center, remember, is the opposite of what you see. So negative 7 and a positive 2. And the radius is the square root of this. So there's your 6. Okay? So I'm going to have you guys work on 14, 15, and 16 for sure. Okay? 14, 15, and 16. Yep. Okay? Questions?